Welcome back into the Arkansas Football Recruiting Report. Jacob Morris joined as always by Otis Kirk. And Otis, plenty to talk about this week. Spring football finally in the books for the Razorbacks, the spring game happening on Saturday, and lots of recruiting news that always goes along with that as well. We start with Caleb Smith, a 2026 wide receiver out of Texas, offers from Baylor, Houston, Louisville. He was in town for the spring game, and we were talking a little bit before I hopped on here, Otis. This guy's got speed, and he's got a whole lot of it.
The jet, yeah, he runs a 10.5 100 meters. That's why he's called the jet. He can fly. He's not very big, 5'10", maybe 160, 165. But I had a story on him earlier in the week at Hogville and Pictorial Nation. But yeah, he's got 12 or 13 offers. Got a lot of speed. Likes Darren Wilson, likes Marcus Woodson, likes Ronnie Fouch. So and he had a good time. He's really looking forward to he was really looking forward to getting up here, and he got to see everything. He had never been to Fayetteville before, never been to Arkansas, so this was his chance to see it. He was wanting to see the Bobby Petrino offense. I asked him about, it doesn't dawn on you. You ask these kids, when Bobby was at Arkansas, they were just babies, they were the little kids. I mean, we're talking 2026 kids. So they weren't very old when Bobby was here. And he said, I really don't know much about it, but I'm looking forward to watching it. So I'm sure he was impressed with that offense yesterday. Taylor Green, Jaquindon, and those guys, Armstrong, C.J. Brown, those guys lit it up out there yesterday. So put on a show. But anyway, yeah, he's someone to keep an eye on. He's from Allen, Texas, same school produce Casey Dick, Marcus Shavers, and some other kids that played for Arkansas. So he's someone to keep an eye on in the future. Arkansas right now is his only SEC offer that I know of. It's kind of strange because he's legit, and he's probably someone the track team would put on. I mean, maybe like a Jordan Anthony or Isaiah Satina, somebody like that, where the track team would also use him as well because he could fly.
Yeah, the speed's really interesting because we know how that would fit in the Petrino offense. But it is funny when you mention something like a class of 26 guy and how he would associate Petrino with Arkansas. Well, he wouldn't. You're talking about a guy, not to make everybody feel old, but was born about the time that Petrino was at Arkansas. So he's 3 when he left. He doesn't know anything about it, but it's good to introduce him to that and have him learn a little bit.
And then it hit me that, he was, he was a baby then. Yeah, it didn't. I mean, I don't know. It just seemed like it was something I asked him, and then I didn't remember much about it, and I figured out why pretty quick. So, yeah, it's just weird how young these guys are. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that Bobby was here, but yet it was.
Yeah, it's really interesting. But moving on, we'll talk offensive line recruiting now. Braden Wilms, offensive tackle, class of 2026. He picked up an offer yesterday, and it's a continuation of what we talked about last week, Otis, where Eric Mateo's, this staff is continuing to look at younger guys on the offensive line, and once again, they make a move with an offer here.
Yeah, Bob, Eric's a lot more aggressive with younger offensive linemen than Cody was. Cody didn't really like to offer younger kids that much. He made some exceptions. I mean, obviously Barry McWhorter, but for the most part, it wasn't his preference. But Eric's very aggressive with the offers. He throws them out there, and this kid's 6'8", 285 pounds from Lawrence, Kansas. Kansas has offered Kansas State, Nebraska, school like that, Minnesota. But you would think Kansas would probably be hard to beat here because he's from Lawrence, Kansas, but he does have an interest in the Razorbacks, and you just got to recruit those guys. You never know when somebody might want to leave home, and he's a kid that can certainly help any program he goes to. But Kansas is definitely in the mix there. I put Arkansas and Kansas State right there with them, and see how it turns out. But he's a huge man. He got stuff you can't coach. 6'8", 285. You can't coach that in the 10th grade.
Yeah, and we've talked about this a lot before, just because you think, right, this kid probably going to want to stay home, close to Kansas, whatever it might be. It doesn't mean you stop recruiting somebody like that, right? You have to put yourself in the mix for kids that are going to make a difference at the SEC level.
Yeah. Well, Selman Bridges played for Arkansas yesterday out there in the Red White game. A good example of that. Everybody assumed he was going to Texas. He was a lock, they said. And Marcus Woodson kept recruiting him hard, and he's at Arkansas now. So, I mean, you've got to recruit him, and what it was with Bridges, Marcus won the dad over. That's what was the convincing to the decide one of the well, let me put it this way. That was one of the deciding factors. That Marcus won the dad over. And so and the dad had a big influence on where Selman went. And so yeah, you recruit these kids and you try to maybe find out. Jim Washburn used to be great at this. He'd find out who had that kid's ear. And that's who Jim would try to get in with, and try to make a good impression with, because if you can find out who's really got these kids here, you can get in with that person and gives you a chance of them no matter where they're from.
Absolutely. Sticking with the offensive line, Zayden Krempen, another Texas guy. He visited for the spring game as well. And let's stick with the theme, a 2026 guy, young offensive lineman in the mix for Arkansas. And what are you hearing on him?
Well, I saw Kobe Branham in a Twitter, X post with him. I was going to say Twitter, but on X, I saw Kobe Branham with him yesterday. Zayden has got, now he's got a ton of offers. He's got he's got about 25, 30 offers, but just SEC. Just SEC. He's got Arkansas, Auburn, LSU, Missouri, OU, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Texas A&M. Yeah, I mean, it's a who's who of the SEC. And you know what? Alabama hasn't offered, and Texas hasn't offered. Guess what? I bet they do very soon. So, I mean, this kid's going to basically have what I've said before on kids. He's going to have his choice of where he wants to go to school. And, he's got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 SEC offers out of the 16 schools. And there'll be more. As I said, I'm almost willing to bet Texas and Alabama are soon to offer. Probably, no, I said Auburn, okay. But, yeah. Ole Miss, Auburn, and Missouri usually offer the same kids Arkansas does down there, and they've offered him. So, but my bet would be Texas and Alabama offer pretty soon on this kid too. He's not as big as the other one. He's only about 6'5", 270, 275. But obviously, they're not worried about that being the 10th grade. He's got good size for that age. And got good footwork, and he does something right. When you're that age, you got 26, 27 offers, you're doing something right.
25, 26. And yeah, it's like you said with the SEC, it's not just, all right, sprinkle in a couple there, sprinkle in a couple regional offers. He's got just about every school you would want in terms of SEC schools. That's the type of talent that's going to make a difference.
Yeah, I think I said that was 8 SEC schools. Well, the other 18 are just as impressive. I mean, there's schools from outside the SEC, but most of the big time powers that do recruit Texas pretty hard, they're recruiting this kid. So, and not just recruiting him, they've offered him. So yeah, I mean, that's someone that you definitely would love if you're Eric Mateus to land this kid, hold on to him, and get to coach him at the University of Arkansas for about 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, you got to make an attempt at kids like this. You never know where things are going to fall. But wrapping up here with the transfer portal, the spring window about to open for Arkansas, about to open for the entirety of college football. The Wild West kind of begins again, and Arkansas already hit with that yesterday. Running back Isaiah Augusta plays in the spring game, carries a couple of times, and a couple hours later announces that he's planning on hitting the transfer portal. What are you hearing from Arkansas? What do the Razorbacks need? What are the Razorbacks expecting going into just another wild window, we'll say, for college football?
I asked Sam Pittman that question yesterday at the press conference. I specifically asked him, what are your needs? And he made a point of emphasizing he hoped no one left.
Yeah.
But he said, right now we have 5 scholarships. He said, talking about, that was Sam said that. So they have 5 scholarships. He said the needs for Arkansas are two offensive linemen, 2 defensive tackles, and a wide receiver. But he said, if we only have 5 scholarships to give, probably use it for a linebacker instead of a wide receiver. But as you said, Augusta left for the portal after the game. So now he has 6 scholarships. So it might be 2 linemen on offense, 2 defensive tackles. He said 2 defensive linemen, but he's talking about tackles. They don't have a tackle in this class. A linebacker and a wide receiver. Now he can take all 6 of those if he feels comfortable with 4 running backs. I think they're okay at running back with 4, but that might be something. My interesting thought is there any chance he goes in the portal for another kicker? Because I mean, those guys have not looked good. Let's be honest about this. I've been blown away by Taylor Green, Jaquindon Jackson, real Jaquindon Jackson. I expected Taylor Green. I didn't know how good Jaquindon was.
Yeah.
He has blown me away. those three offensive linemen, Anton at defensive end, Xavier Sori at linebacker. You've got Danico Robinson back there in the second. Slaughter. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Slaughter from Tennessee back there in the. I'm thinking Marquise Robinson, Danico Slaughter and Marquise Robinson both, and back there in the secondary. They've done well in the portal, but boy, it just seemed and everything I looked at when what they did, Jacob, they had this set up where Cam Little would kick for 4 years. Then next year, the number one kicker in the country would come into Arkansas. Well, what got all that? That was all set and had it laid out. Coach Fountain had it laid out perfectly. Cam opted to go to the NFL a year early, so now they've got this filler year where they don't really want to sign a guy that's going to be here forever because they've got the number one kicker in the country coming in next year. But they do want to sign. But they signed Matthew Shipley from Hawaii, and man, he looked good. All his stats, he was accurate. But he's struggling out there, and so are the others. It's not just Matthew; it's the other kickers too. No one can consistently make a 40-yard field goal, 35. And what would be a shame is if all this time now they finally got the offense fixed with Bobby Petrino, and now they don't have a kicker to get the points when they don't make a touchdown. It would be so Arkansas in some ways to do that, but hopefully they get that figured out because. I'm not saying they'll go to the portal for another kicker. I don't think they will. I think they're trying to fix what they have. But, man, I don't know. I mean, if they don't see – I don't know. That's a scary position. I'm not going to lie to you. I was impressed with Taylor Green, the receivers, Andrew Armstrong's. Man, he's good. That guy's good. Tyrone Broden.
Yeah.
He looks better than he did last year. I think I was over there when Tyrone got hurt last year. There wasn't very many reporters there. It was the day Arkansas was playing in the NCAA tournament. Who they were playing. So there wasn't very many reporters at the practice. And I was there. And they were in the indoor workout in Smith Center, the indoor football field. And Tyrone got hit down there. And it looked bad, but it wasn't as bad as it looked, but it was bad. But I feel like that may have affected him a lot of the season. But boy, that was in spring. But in the season, he just never. He did make the big catch against Florida, but I think he really is a lot better than he was. And Luke had two big catches. I'm sitting up there. I'm saying, I wonder why they're not targeting Luke. And then bang, two catches. 52. He looked like Luke. And for people who don't know, the starters only played the first half. So 250 yards passing for Taylor Green, that's in one half. That's in one half. 3 touchdowns. The thing that's impressed me about Taylor, I was talking to Jason this morning on his show, and the thing that's impressed me about Taylor, I think Bobby Petrino's got the interception deal out of him, Jacob, because that was the knock on him last year. I think he had 11 touchdown passes, 9 interceptions at Boise State, something like that.
Yeah.
His reputation was a lot of interceptions. And, watching these scrimmages, and I saw 3 of them in a lot of the practices, he didn't throw very many interceptions. There was 1 interception yesterday, but it wasn't thrown by him. But so I think Bobby has gotten a lot of that out of him. I don't know what was causing the interception, but I told the person, Bretton, when they signed him about that, I said, Bobby will get that out of him. If it can be gotten out of him, Bobby will get it out. Will work that part of his game out of it. And he looks a lot better.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll say on that, we talked when they made the signing, right? He has all the physical tools in the world. You can't teach 6'5 plus and can run like the wind. You just have to teach decision making, which is where he struggled at Boise State. There were a couple decisions where he'd have one play where he'd pop off. I think it was against Utah State. He popped off 91-yard touchdown run, and you go, well, that's unbelievable. And then he turns around and he stares down a linebacker and throws an interception, right? So it's just getting that out of him. The only place that I wouldn't say I'm pushing back on you, Otis, but I would say it is an important reminder also he went solely against the twos yesterday. So that 215-yard performance. But what I thought was interesting was you were in that press conference, Otis, when people asked him afterwards, they said, hey, do you wish you could run a little bit more? And he said, of course I do. I don't think I'd be getting tackled. But he had a really interesting perspective on it, in that he said what it's forcing him to do is, of course, he has the ability to run. We know that. But it's forcing him to go through his pure progressions, right, as a passer. And I think that kind of alludes to what you're talking about, right? What's going to help you as a passer? Being forced, whether you like it or not, to go through your first read, your second read, and find your check down from there. And I thought that was a really interesting perspective, because we know he can fly. We know what he's going to do as a dual threat guy. But to be forced to do that, that's only helping his development as a passer.
Yeah. One thing I was getting at on the interception, so too, is if you remember the first two scrimmages, he went against the first team defensive. Oh, yes, he did. He went against the second team. But he went against the first team defense in both scrimmages. It was one-on-ones most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time. And he still wasn't throwing that many interceptions. So that's why I'm getting at, no doubt, he's not going to throw for 250 yards and a half, most games. I get that. But I'm just saying, it seems like just judging him by I think there was 13 open practices. Yeah. And I probably made 10 of them. Various reasons. I missed, I think, 3 of them. But he looked a lot more. I just didn't see any day. There was one day where all the quarterbacks looked really bad. They just looked bad. It wasn't he was throwing interceptions, or the others were. They just couldn't throw it. They couldn't hit anybody. They looked really bad that day, all the quarterbacks. But other than that, I thought he's looked pretty good this spring. But even against the ones, he hasn't thrown like a bunch of interceptions. I think he threw one maybe to Jalen Braxton in one scrimmage. I
think it was Hudson Clark got him right at the end of the open scrimmage 2 weeks ago.
I was thinking that was someone else, but it may very well been. I think Braxton may have got him one. Yeah, there's been a few, and I remember that Hudson Clark. I couldn't remember if that was Taylor that threw it or not.
Yeah, but it was Taylor to finish that scrimmage, and it was to your point, it was kind of uncharacteristic. It was the last drive of the scrimmage, and I think it was Landon Jackson got free off the edge, and he just floated a pass. Never saw Hudson Clark. He went up and got it. In terms of Jalen Braxton, I think Jalen Braxton's going to get a lot of quarterbacks this year, so you take the positive with the negative there as well, I guess. But he's flashing, right? And that's all you can ask for, because people forget, again, you got the physical tools, but he's learning an entirely different offense as well. So he's going to come along as the spring and summer goes too.
And I think giving Bobby this summer, they're allowed to work with him now where they used to not be. Then give him a month, basically preseason. Give Bobby a month. Give him the UAPB game.
Yeah.
By the time they play Oklahoma State, I think you're going to see a Taylon Green that looks like an SEC quarterback, looks like a big-time quarterback. I really do. And not just Taylor, but, man, I tell you, the guy that probably impressed me this spring more than anybody else over there, because not that he had the best spring, but because of what I was expecting. That's not even right. Say what I just didn't know much about him. Was Jaquindon Jackson?
Yeah,
he blew me away, man. I mean, that kid, he breaks tackles. I was telling those guys in the press box yesterday, I said, when I get the 8-yard line, like I think they had first and go at the 8. I give it to him 4 straight times. There's no way on God's green earth they can stop. And I asked Jaquindon after the press conference. During the press conference, I asked him. I said, "Hey, if he didn't know what I was talking, he didn't know I'd said that because but I asked him. I said, hey, if they get inside the 10-yard line, they give it to you 4 times. Is the other team stopping you? No way." He said. So, he doesn't lack confidence. But no, I believe that. I know. I believe him when he says that, because I'd already made that. He didn't know I'd made that statement to the guys in the press box. But I just feel like when you get in that red zone, or inside the 10, I mean, you give him that ball, I don't see anybody stopping him 4 times. Maybe they can. But, I mean, they're not going to arm tackle him. Now, I'm going to tell you that I don't care if it's the 8-yard line or the 20-yard line. You're not going to arm tackle Jaquindon Jackson. He'll break your arm off trying to arm tackle him. That kid really impressed me. I'm not saying he was the best player in the spring. I'm saying he's the one that I didn't know as much about going in, kind of like maybe an Andrew Armstrong last spring. Guy that, about. I knew Taylon Green. I'd watched film. I'd watched a lot of stuff on him, and people that were skeptical of him, I said, you guys are only looking at you're thinking of recruiting. You're thinking he was at Boise State. I said, forget that. He should have never been. I don't mean that as a cut down Boise State. They've had top 25 teams. We probably should have never been there. He should have been heavier recruited than that. Let's be honest. And he didn't get the recruiting I think he probably should have out of high school for whatever reason. but he's good. But Jaquindon is just better than I thought he was. And I'm gonna tell you what, that may be part of the reason. I don't know if that's why Augusta. It's probably not one of the reasons Augusta left. I don't know, but I mean, I could see why he would look out there. And I'm going to tell you, Braylon Russell is a kid that just keep an eye
That's
on
what I was
him.
about to say. Yep.
And one thing with Isaiah leaving, not that I wanted him to leave, but one thing with Isaiah leaving, what it does now, it gives Braylon, who was on the verge of probably getting play, going to get playing time. Sam said anyway. Before that, he had said Braylon's going to get playing time. So, but now there's one more spot. He probably moves up a spot, and so that's more, maybe a few more carries a game for Braylon Russell. And that 32-yard run he had yesterday was impressive, Jacob. I mean, there's nothing questionable about that. I mean, the kid's got size, he's got speed. Braylon Russell, the only thing that hurt him in high school, the biggest thing that hurt Braylon in high school was injuries. He had some foot injuries and stuff. He kept getting hurt, and that was the one thing. Even when he played, a lot of times, he basically told me he played that. I think his senior year or maybe his junior basically hurt the whole year with that foot. He'd take the cast off to play and go out there and play. Take that walking boot off, go out there and play, and then put it back on. Not the cast, I meant walking boot, but just. He wasn't 100% healthy, but if he's close to 100%, Braylon Russell will play, and not only will he play, he will help them this year. He's good, and he's a big load. That's another guy you're not going to arm tackle.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. Augusta's a really good player. He flashed last year, but I think it's just one of those situations where I think a lot of Arkansas fans, understandably, were a little bit concerned. It's almost, in a way, a sign of a positive because it's, pick your cliche, it's too many cooks in the kitchen. When you talk about Jaquindon Jackson came in and pretty much immediately took the one spot, and then you took the words out of my mouth. Braylon Russell has been so impressive this spring. And to tie both Jaquindon and Braylon together, you were in that press conference yesterday. He got asked about Braylon. Were you the one who asked him? You might have been the one who asked him. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I did that because I was going to ask Sam, and I forgot to ask Sam. So I wanted to. I asked Kyle, "Can I have one last question?" Because he was getting ready to end it, and I wanted one more question. I forgot to ask Sam about Braylon, and I meant to, and it slipped my mind. Then it hit me. You didn't ask Sam about Braylon, so I asked Jaquindon about Braylon. Yeah, he said he's going to be an All-American.
Yeah, I was just about to say. I mean, it wasn't man, he's coming along nice. He's looking great. He said he has all the tools. And if he keeps playing like this, that kid's going to be an All-American. So that's the type of guy you have behind these. Arkansas, at least right now, knock on wood, no injuries, nothing else, is in really good shape at the running back spot.
Yeah, and Dominic Johnson's the kid that I wrote off about 2 years ago when he hurt both knees. I wrote him off, and I've learned never to write Dominic Johnson. What you get with him, you know what you're getting. When you send Dominic into the game, you pretty much know what you're getting. You're getting Mr. Consistency. He's going to give you everything he has for 4 or 5, 6 carries, whatever he gets, 8 carries. He's going to give you everything he's got. He's not going to hurt you. He's never hurt the team. He can block. And but when you get Dominic is a perfect back to have back there to complement those other 3 guys. He's perfect for what they need back there. And I'll never write him off again. He showed me you can overcome injuries if you work hard, and he has it. And like I say, he's never hurt Arkansas a single time. You put him in there, he finds a way to help him, and he does whatever Coach Pittman, Coach Jimmy Smith, now I'm sure Kobe Smith ask him to do.
Yeah, it's the ultimate team guy. I mean, I know you're alluding to it, but I remember last year they brought him in just a fullback, just go lead block in an I formation, and he just said he got asked about that. And he just said, "Well, the coaches, said it's a way to get on the field. Experimented a little at tight end. Why not? Do you know what I mean? Like he does everything, and you got to love that about a guy.
He'll do whatever they ask him to do, and when you get a player like that, he's never going to hurt you, man. I mean, he's going to help you, and because he's a team player. He puts the team ahead of himself. And but Dominic's a good ball player, solid running back. Yeah, you're right. That running back, that running back room over there is really good.
Really good. Anything else you want to hit before we go, Otis?
No, it'll be an interesting week here. Hopefully, I don't think Arkansas will get killed with the portal. I don't think they will, but they lost one last year after the spring. And I don't think they will, but we'll see. I mean, there's obviously rumors out there, and when you're talking portal and stuff, anything's possible. This is a 15-day window. So it starts tomorrow and goes through the 30th. So we'll see what happens, but I don't see a mass X of players. I don't, but We'll see. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it didn't surprise me that Isaiah left. It wouldn't surprise me if one or two others, if you, I'm not going to name them, but if you look at certain positions, it wouldn't surprise me if they left. Just common sense tells you they might, but for the most part, I just don't see a lot of players leaving. Except maybe a couple of three, maybe looking for a place where the playing time is more possible than it was. And I think that figured in with Isaiah. Maybe not the
Yeah.
deciding factor, but I do think it figured into it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's new era college football. You can't blame kids a lot of the time,
No, I
right?
know. I don't blame you at all.
If you're staring up four kids in front of you, you owe it to yourself to go find yourself a better opportunity elsewhere.
And yeah, no, I don't blame him at all because I think there was a chance that Braylon might have moved ahead of him eventually, and that's not a put down. I'm really high on Braylon Russell. I'm not
Me
cutting
too.
down anybody if I say Braylon Russell moves ahead of you, but I'm just saying Jaquindon came in,
Yeah.
and you got to do like Rashad though. Jaquindon came in, seemingly took that number one spot. Rashad didn't quit. He stayed in, working. He's number two. He'll get his share of carries. There'll be injuries at that position. So no, but that's it. But no, I don't expect a big number to leave. Maybe next week I'll be on here and I'll look like an idiot saying that. But they've got 6 scholarships for anybody that doesn't know. They've got, I know we said that earlier, but 6 scholarships now. I guess a wide receiver, linebacker, 2 defensive tackles, and 2 offensive linemen would be the priority now. I'm assuming Sam said if they had 5, they would go for a linebacker instead of a receiver. Now they got 6, so he may go for that receiver that he wanted.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. New era of college football, 15-day portal window for the spring opening up soon for Arkansas. That's going to do it for this week's Arkansas Football Recruiting Report. That's Otis Kirk. I'm Jacob Morris. We'll talk to you next week.